Late again, Leahy. Oh, sorry about that. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Leahy. This is Thursday Afternoon Live. I seriously need a better name than that. But anyway, welcome back. Welcome back. I have just returned from a trip to Massachusetts and Connecticut and New York, which was a blast. Had a really, really good time catching up with everyone back home, helping mom out a little bit. Just a really good time. Yeah, I'll fill you in as we go. I stopped at Createx on the way in, got to meet Simon Murray finally, which is really, really good, and got to hang out with all the folks at Createx, which is also a lot of fun too. I also stopped at Nub Graphics on the way back and hung out with Nub for his live feed on Tuesday, so you can go to his feed, Nub Graphics, or his page on Facebook, and you can rewatch the shenanigans there. It was fun. We just kind of hung out and painted a bunch of stuff that was around his shop and raised some money for Bulldogs. So that's what we did there. So today I'm going to work on this Ford painting a little bit. This is one of the last two HD stencil paintings that I've been working on, and those are the paintings that were started with HD stencils, so I'm going to be working on that one. The other HD stencil painting that needs to be done is the Harley painting, and if you are looking for the newest installation of that on Open Studio, it will be live today, but or it'll be on today, a little bit later, because I'm trying to catch up after the trip. All right, so let's get switched around. I gotta figure out what we're doing here because things are funky because I'm in here, so we'll figure it out. All right, jump over. There we go. And I will say hello to everyone. Hello, Simon Cotter and William Klein. What is up? All right. Jump there. Turn one of those on. Let's try this one. That'll work. So there we go. All right, I'm here. So cheers. Today is coffee again. So I promise as I get used to it, I'll prepare my Thursdays so that I can have a proper cheers with all my UK GMT friends. We'll get that done. But today's coffee, so that'll work. What else we got? Turn that down a little bit. It's probably a little bit too loud. There we go. It's probably a little bit better. Franz, what is up? What's happening? Travis, what's happening? And awesome. Oh yeah, Travis, that stapler was such a blast to do. That was a lot of fun. So Travis was in on that. It was insane. It was just a fun time. Let's see. If I go here, there we go. Yeah, that way I can watch comments over here instead of over there. That'll be better. All right, so let me catch you up on what's going on here a little bit. Hopefully you guys are having a good week. It feels like Monday to me. Even though it's not Monday, which is odd because I've been running around everywhere and I drove all day yesterday, so I'm feeling very Monday-like, but it's Thursday, so I'm just kind of catching up. I'm actually glad I'm getting a lot of stuff done on this painting. I really wasn't expecting to work much on it, but I worked on it in between things during the week, so that was a lot of fun. So you can check back on the Facebook feed. I think I worked a little bit on, I know I worked on some of this on the Facebook feed as well. So a little bit of both, and I did a lot of the car. So the car here is pretty much blocked in. There's a lot that's going on here with the reflections and all that fun stuff. We started these fenders on the Facebook Live feed last Monday. And we're going to work on these fenders today. You notice how different the value is between them? This is really a bright red, and then this is really kind of an orangey, rusty red. So they're the same reds that I used, but I did a lot to this red to get it to that point. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. The other thing we're looking at is where I stopped on this. There's a reflection of the actual car in this front fender here. You can see it a little bit, and I wanted to get that right. However, I didn't print it off, so I'm not going to be able to do that either. Lovely. Teresa, what is up? Thanks, Travis. Yeah, it's half the fun is, trying to figure all that out, especially this reflection of whatever car that was here. And I took out the gentleman who was standing here with his sandal. All you saw was a hand and a leg with a sandal, so I removed him. because he didn't do much to tell the story, and you can't see his reflection in the car either, so it works out really well. I kind of just eliminated him. I felt a little bit bad about that, but you know, we'll get over it. All right, let me jump back here. There we go. Find the reference photo. The reference photo, can I pull that up? Let me see. Was I a good boy and did the right thing? I did. Okay, hold on. All right, let me switch over to the reference photo real quick. That's what we're dealing with. So, so if you look real close on the top side of that fender, see that reflection of the car in there? That's what I was going to be working on today, but I needed Photoshop for that, and I didn't do anything with that. So I needed to cut out or print out a new copy so I could see that. The resolution I have on the copies I have now isn't good enough, so I need to lower the, just get a different value on that, just kind of push the contrast on my photocopies, which I'll show you in a second. So that's kind of what we're doing. And there's the dude with the sandal and his stuff and everything in his hand. So he's, like I said, he's gone. So we took him out. Did I leave his? Oh, I had a moment of terror that I left his shadow in the bottom. See his knee down there at the bottom, left-hand corner? I thought I left that in, but I did not. That's good. Woohoo! That would have been really bad. All right. Yeah, I took his knee out of there too. But here's the photocopies that I'm using, and if you look, it's just barely there. But all I need to do is go into Photoshop, open this file up that I have, and then dump down the contrast, and that will show right up. Unfortunately, I didn't do that before the feed, so I can't really do much with that. But what I'll do for today then is, why don't I start, I could do a number of different things. I can do the, I could start by blocking in the well, actually the sort of hood cowl cover. Can also work on the front of the radiator here too. So there's a lot that I can do. I just gotta figure it out. I can also start working on the wheel too, which might not be a bad idea either. Okay. Let's figure it out. Mike's brush. What's up, Mike? Enzo, what is happening? Enzo, your paintings are on the way. I got all the paintings out today except for one because I was waiting for an address, but I got it. But it missed today's shipping run, so I'll get that out tomorrow. Finally got myself a motorcycle, and I have a million ideas, so I think I'm going to buy 2 gas tanks and fenders. Travis, that's an excellent idea anyway. If you can get the same, get all the tins for it. Well, I mean, you can always, if you go to sell the bike, you can always sell the bike with a custom paint job, but sometimes people don't want that. So if it's much more appealing if you have a custom paint job and you have the whole set of tins as well that are stock, because then you can get a lot more for the bike, which is kind of cool. I found out that from all the bike guys I hang around with. There we go. Yeah, Mike, exactly, being cut out on this one. A lot to do on this, but again, yeah, I mean, Mike, that HD stencil makes such a big difference in all of it. Oh, you know what I can do? I know what I'll do. I'm going to work on the firewall here a little bit, because since that's kind of almost halfway there anyway, that'll be a good thing to kind of pick at today. All right. So to do that, it's almost there. It's looking pretty good. I'm just going to pick a darker brown just to kind of start working on this. I can start working on the motor too, because this back part of it right here, just they kind of blend together. It's really dark there. So Enzo, it is absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for the awesome suggestions from all of you who jump over on the Monday night feed and give suggestions. Enzo's suggestions are great. So Enzo was our winner last week, which was very exciting because he's been playing along for a long time. So what we do every Monday night is you can jump on the Facebook feed and you can make suggestions for me on what to paint for the next week. And if you make a suggestion, then you're automatically entered in the drawing for a painting for the next week. So it's really easy. So Enzo's been playing along for a while, and he finally won last Monday, so that was good. All right, I'm just loading up my palette here. Do we have that on? No, let me turn that back on here. Yeah, so I'm just putting water in this wet palette here. Since I've been traveling with it, I kind of let the water evaporate. I'm going to recharge that a little bit. I should probably change the paper too, but we're not doing that now. We're doing this. All right. There we go. So I think I'm going to start with is just a little straight black in here. Because I got to kind of connect where I cut off the red. The red kind of keeps going down underneath here. But I think I'm going to do that. There's some great subtle like red reflections on like the exhaust pipes and stuff, or the manifold. There's a lot of fun stuff going on with this. Let me see. I have my my CMC. Do you still have the pinball painting? I'll probably snag that up someday. Oh yeah, the 543 pinball painting is still in there. Yeah. I just saw it. Let's do 10 to 1. That's probably the least amount of risk of stupidity. I'm going to change the angle of you guys too a little bit so you're more head on. So I did a little bit of painting this morning because I had to do the next installment. I didn't expect to be out until Tuesday or Wednesday, so I expected to be back to do the open studio, but I didn't. So I had to do that today, which is fine, but I'm still trying to catch up with getting everything back in order around here. It's fun when I go away, but it's also kind of crazy because I take a lot of it with me. Yeah, that's much better. You guys will get a much more straight on look that way. So we're getting there. Yeah, that's good. That works. Oh, the car on the side, Enzo. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I thought I was going to take that out. I don't even know what kind of car it is. It's definitely a much more modern, well, modern compared to these cars. I think it's like a 60s, looks like an Impala or something like that. I still got some more. Actually, should I do that? I'm all over the road here. I still have a lot more to do on all that. No, I'll wait. We're just going to pick at this. I still have to tone this whole thing down. Right now, you're seeing a lot of not only the blocking in, but you're seeing a lot of the strongest colors that I use to kind of put that in. There's going to be a lot of final adjusting on that, which will kind of blend that out a little bit. It won't stand out as much. But it's not as much fun as me picking at this, so we'll do that. And then finally, the other very sad note, over the week, my veteran Quick Connect has finally died after like 20 years. I've had the same Quick Connect hose for like, it's got to be almost 20 years now. I probably got it in, 92 maybe, 93, I don't know, something like that. Anyway, so I had this GMAC valve from Grex, and so I have an extra hose and I just attached it, so now I have the brand new shiny GMAC with the little air adjusting thing on it. So it's bittersweet that I lost my Quick Connect hose, but yeah, it did, Simon. It finally gave out. I got to do a little bit more research on that because when I posted about those Quick Connects, someone had said that the Rectus airbrush connectors were still available, but I searched their site. They have all kinds of connectors, and I could not find that one. I mean, I could probably send them an email. But you know, it's just one of those things that I haven't got around to doing yet, but I should. What else am I missing? Travis, I've been using an old school 3M projector the last few weeks doing the side of my van. First large scale project works awesome. Mom's a teacher, so it's free. Yeah, those overhead projectors are hard to find too now. So that's a good score right there. Marge has one. I never did anything that big. I have a Artegraph projector, so anything that I was doing that was bigger, I was just using that. But yeah, those overheads are awesome for large projecting. All right. So what I'm doing, this is just 20 to 1 black. You guys are in close enough, probably. I could get you closer, but this way I don't have to keep adjusting the camera. So this black through this brush, this is 10 to 1 or 1 to 10. So it's 1 part paint to 10 parts 4011 reducer. Opaque jet black, or the opaque jet black, the new stuff. So this will develop really slowly, but I also have a bunch of control of it. And then I can also build it up to just about, well, I can build it up to opacity, it just takes a little while. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. And this works its way through the CMC. If I was doing this with the CMB, I'd be using the 20 to 1 because it works the same way, but just needs a little bit thinner paint. Too bad Artograph went out of business. Yeah, Shannon, it does suck. They tried to go digital for a while, but I don't think the market was there, even for the digital stuff. So they just had a hard time, and that was it. And I feel bad too because they were a good company. They were one of the ones that were really, they were into it. You know, they were always there, and I love companies that are, you know, always out there. And Artograph certainly was. They were a strong advertiser to a lot of the magazines, and they always had a bunch of new products, and it was just, they were a cool company. So, all right. So you just kind of start blending it together. Now with the black, most of the motor is black too, so I can just start kind of messing with that. I'm not overly worried about this edge of the fender. There's a lot that has to go on here still, especially with those white highlights and all that. So, I mean, I could put a shield on here, but I mean, the way this paint flows and the control you get out of it, it's not a huge thing. Plus, I'm not really hosing anything down here. I'm just kind of picking at details, so there's not a ton of overspray. And what I'm doing is I'm just kind of, I think this needle is a little bit wonky too, but it'll still work. What I'm doing is I'm just kind of blocking in the black. So I'm using the HD stencil to kind of draw out those shapes. And then I'll adjust them and, you know, add all the other fun stuff later. It's just this kind of, it's kind of just, again, it blocks it in. So when I go to move on to those other shapes, I have everything in, and I don't have to worry about preserving that HD stencil through other layers. So I bought an Artograph, but it wouldn't go big enough. Returned it. Those old school projectors are where it's at. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, muralists love those overhead projectors. Like I said, Marge, a part of what she did was a lot of mural work. It's really how she got, between t-shirts and mural work, that's how she really got into airbrushing, and all her airbrush connections that we share are all muralists or, you know, started out as t-shirt artists, that kind of thing. So she's got a lot of that stuff, which is really cool. Because like I said, I never did, but it's so nice. If I ever needed an overhead projector or anything like that, she's got it. So it works out well. All right, I think I am going to use a little bit of a template here because, no, you know what? Screw it. Whatever. What could go wrong? I don't want to go too far onto, you know, I guess that's the manifold there. Because I'm going to do that with a light blue first before I really get heavy with the black, just so I don't get a ton of blue shift and everything. But again, still, this is great to just be able to run around this thing and kind of lock it in. William, I got my autograph to one of the getaways. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I have a Super Prism, but again, there's dust on that thing because I used to use it a lot when I was doing, you know, like 2-foot canvases and things like that. But again, you know, doing the small stuff, I don't get too much chance to use anything like that. So with these areas here, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. Hold on. Hold up. Okay, that's better. Okay, so for the areas that are near, like blending, like between here and here, the red and the back side of the motor, what I do to get that edge out of there first is I kind of build up the black to roughly the same value first, and then I can blend it out onto the other parts, like this. So if I try to just like blend the whole thing, the background will get a lot darker than the part I'm trying to blend. So I try to get them up to roughly the same value first, and then kind of spread them out over the other areas. I love on this Ford how the spark plugs just stick directly out of the top of it, just right there. Thank you for your comments on this and likes and all that stuff. It helps to grow this channel. My shiny new little YouTube channel. So I had another one before, but I kind of switched over to this one. Mike's brush was a big part about getting a bunch of people to take a look at what I was doing over here. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you guys and girls jumping on and hanging out. So it'd be nice to have this platform strong, you know, so I could use a little bit of either. All right, what am I doing? I know what I'm doing. Tire, wheels. Could do that. One really cool thing about the HT stencil that's worth noting, and since I have you guys close, I can show you. So the way I use it, the Mini Master needs a magnifying glass, not a projector. Yeah, although sometimes, yeah, all right, so Travis, I have something that I'll show in Tech Tuesday at some point. There's an app on my phone that may be a very, very cool thing for my miniature stuff from the projector standpoint, but I'll get into that later. Hopefully you can pick these up. So there are treads on this running board here. So if you look, they're really exactly where they should be. Now to paint that, to sit there with a paintbrush and then try to get those exactly in the right spot is difficult, really difficult. So I'll tell you how I did that, because it was really cool, because I got to use the HT stencil again. So the way I did this is, so the little tread, the top parts of the treads are blue. So what I did was I cut out a template that matched the whole area of this tread, the whole area of the black here. And I sprayed the whole thing blue. And then what I did, which was actually pretty sneaky, was I took the HT stencil, and if I tilt this just the right way, see all the treads right there? So then what I was able to do is reline this up, and it was pretty easy to do. I mean, I wouldn't do this everywhere, because if you're off by just a little bit, you get this double vision type blurry thing going on. But here it was okay, because it wasn't that, you know, critical. So once I had that, then all I did was I sprayed black over this a bunch of times. And then because the dude's leg is right here, and there were no tread marks there, I actually took the HT stencil and slid it back, just slid it up, you know, the tread, and then lined those dots up and then did it again. And what I was left with was just the blue dots. I did have to clean it up a little bit. You could see in the black where the HT stencil was like a grid pattern, but it was pretty easy to just go in around it and clean it all up. But that's how I got all those tread marks in exactly the right spot. So that was a lot of fun. Hopefully that made sense. Okay. Now what are we going to do? Because that's all I can really do up in here, because I got to start introducing all the red and blue. So you know what? Why don't we just work on the motor? That works. So for the motor, let me switch you back to, do I still have it queued up? Yeah, I do. All right, so if you look at the motor, that silver, I guess it's the manifold. I don't know my 1930s Ford motor parts, but that silver, basically that silver pipe that's on the side, see there's awesome red reflections in it that's reflecting the fender, and then it's silver, so it's reflecting the sky as well. So that and the spark plugs are what I'm going to get in next. If I block all those in, then I can really finish up the motor. I can get all the rest of the details in there. So that is what we're going to be doing there. Hopefully it's the right camera. That is, and we'll do that again. Getting this down, all this high-tech jazzery. It was fun doing the feed the last couple of weeks with just my phone again. It was like totally old school, and I was like, oh, look at that. I only have one thing to worry about. And it autofocuses. How lovely. So it was fun. I did use this blue for a couple other things, and you can see on the top of this tire, I did the same thing. I added that, just a haze of that blue on there. That's just, again, it's blocking in. I got that in now, so when I go to do the rest of the tire, that's already in. So I try to do that a lot. This here is more of a violet, so that's not really the same blue. But I will use that blue here when I go to pump up this reflection on the side of the fender. So yeah. Heater just kicked on, time for fuel bill. Yeah, no kidding, Travis. I'm avoiding it like the plague here. So hopefully it'll be a little while before you have to really kick on the heat. But it was cold in the art cave this morning. Back to wearing socks and sweatshirts and stuff, which is a bummer. I like being barefoot when I'm painting. So okay. So in order to get that in, I gotta just mix up a light blue. So let me get rid of this black real quick. Yeah, hanging out with Nub is always a blast. And that was kind of a last minute thing. I was originally gonna come home last Sunday, and then I was going back and forth with Vanessa, who is Nub's right hand extraordinaire, and we were talking about all kinds of stuff, and she had we kind of were talking about, she'd asked me if I was going to stop by for a visit, because I do drive right by their shop pretty much, and we started talking, and it worked out that just ended up stopping in, which was a blast. So got to do the feed on Tuesday night, which was a lot of fun, and as Travis saw, it was great. We raised a bunch of money for the Bulldog Foundation that Nub is a part of, and people got a lot of cool stuff, so it was fun. All right, so light blue here, or something like that. So I'm going to use a little bit of white first. A little bit of white, and do I have any paletted out? No, I don't. Too bad. I'm going to use I'll just show it to you. It's the opaque light blue, or hold on, I'll show it to you. It's daylight blue from Createx. I know that's blurry, but you can still read it. It's 0087 Wicked Opaque Daylight Blue. So I'm gradually switching over all my primary colors to these Wicked colors, and then I'm just filling in the blanks with the Wicked colors. And that's kind of what I did with the detail colors as well. So the Wicked colors were my main color, like what I would use for the main colors. And then I would fill in the blanks with the detail colors, because they had a lot of artistic, like siennas, and moss green is a detail color that I really love. So they just had some colors that really worked well. So I'm doing the same thing here, because I love the binders in these opaque paints. They can stand to be reduced quite a bit and still hold up. And then if I add 40-50 to them, if they're cranky, they spray like amazing. So that's kind of what we're doing with these. They have plenty of the opaque colors, so there's not like I'm missing anything, which is also really nice. It's just taken a little bit of time to adjust to them, because they're different than the blue, for instance, has a different cast than what I'm used to using. So there we go. So there is a light blue, and again, it's not in focus, but you get the idea. So now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to hose this whole thing down. I'm just going to use it in the parts that it appears in. So for instance, down at the bottom of this is more pink, and there's a little bit of red overspray in that, which actually works out really well. So I'm just doing the top of this to block this whole thing in again. And then again, that's how it works. It's just kind of, even on the mini paintings, it's get it all in first, just kind of, this doesn't seem very blue. Come on. It's probably spraying white to start. All right. This is probably white in the bottom of the cup. So even on the small stuff, it works the same way as I'd work on the big stuff. So I'll block in these areas. There we go. There's the blue I'm looking for. So block in each area first before I get into the detail. You would think it's all detail all the time, but it's really not. It's like you just kind of roughly get things in at first, and you slowly tighten them up until they get down to the very tightest detail. And that way, if things like that happen, see a little spider webbing that's going on, if stuff like that happens now on this blocking in part, while I'm really trying to get the overall shapes and colors in, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to be cleaning all that up with the detail stuff anyway. There we go. These brushes definitely need a spa day. I've been using them non-stop without stopping to clean them. It's always a bad thing, because sooner or later they will tell me that they need to be cleaned by not working anymore. So I feel like we're getting there. So to this week is a big catch up week because I've been gone. So I'm sure that's going to be part of it, just taking an afternoon and ripping apart everything and getting everything cleaned up. Yeah, this definitely has stuff chunked in it. Wish he had stencils to do 3x5 sheets, foot sheets. Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, Travis, HD stencil that was 3 foot by 5 foot would probably cost you more than what you're getting paid to do the stencil. um, the HD stencils aren't cheap, but they're also, I mean, what they do for you saves, like you said, saves time that's way more than what you spent for it. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. And then the nice thing is they charge by the size of it. So if you're doing something like this, you're doing small stuff, you just need like a portrait, kind of to add to something, and you need just like a 3x5. It's not very much. I've had, what was the largest one I had? I think I had a 12x12 inch HD, and they'll also split them up too. So if it's bigger than they can print, they'll give you two, or you end up buying two. So you have a lot of options. All right, so this little thing up here, I don't know what this is. I'm pretty sure it's the ground or the running board on the other Ford. So it's blue regardless, so I'm going to use the same blue for that. And it's if you're curious on these stencils, what I just showed you with the running board, that's a stencil I used to kind of lay this whole thing out. You can find them at hdstencils.com. So it's plural, HD Stencils. And if you find that you want to grab one of them, I believe I have a code that I haven't checked in a while, but I think it's still active. And you just type in my name. So it's Stephen Leahy with a V. And I believe that gives you a discount. If not, let me know. Yeah, Travis, I think they can. I think they can split them in two. Yeah, there you go. There you go. So the thing with that, Travis, is the resolution on these is so good. I don't know if that's the process that would be the best anyway. I mean, I know you're throwing it out there. You would almost need like an HD stencil, but with a much wider resolution almost, so you can really hose the thing down and get like real general. It's not a bad idea. Something you could just tape up and tack in place and then just hit with a spray gun from Mural. That would actually be pretty cool. So, all right. So that's pretty much it for the blue. But there are other areas, like the mount for the headlight also has a kind of a steel color to it. So I'm going to drop in some blue there to kind of get that started. And since I have this blue here, this is actually a good color. It's also on the reflections on all the hubs of these wheels. So I'm going to throw them in here too, just to kind of conserve paint here. So the trick with the paint too, the Createx, and I would assume it's true with a lot of water-based paints, the kind of misconception is that it has to be thin to spray with control. These opaque paints have proven that that's not entirely true, which is why I like them so much. You can actually leave some body to them and they'll still spray with amazing control. So you don't have to water the crap out of them, which is nice. The hard part is you got to break away from that assumption that that's the only way to do it. Because, like I said, I mean, I still do it. It's like, oh, it needs to be super detailed, so I'll just thin it out. But, sometimes you don't have to. You can leave it on the thick side. Like this is on the thick side right now. But it still sprays with a whole bunch of control. It's not going where I don't want it to go, which is nice. Again, now I'm just hitting the other areas that have that sky reflection in it. And actually I'm going to cheat and add a little bit on the radiator cowl here because there's a lot of reflection of the sky in that, which I which is going to be red up here, but that just, again, kind of gets the foundation going. Well, there's some in the other car, the other Ford up here, but I'm not going to start working on that one yet. I'm going to leave that one. What I should do is I should have done that car first. So since this one's in front, it'll be easier to cover, but because there's so much detail going on this, and it's all like individual little bits and pieces, it's not absolutely crucial that I do the background first. But I generally try to go from back to front, All right, I think that's most of it. I think that's good for the blue. Oh, no. It's good. I should cut something out for this instead of just winging this, but we're just going to go for it. There's a very strong reflection of the sky right here in the corner of this bumper, so we're going to throw that in now. Again, if I took 5 seconds and cut out a template, this would be really easy, and that wouldn't happen. Oh boy. There we go. Try that again. There we go. Much better. So what I don't want to do here is I don't want to get any of this blue paint on the asphalt, because that's just a repair that I don't want to do. There we go. Fortunately, that blue doesn't get all the way to the edge anyway. There's a bunch of other stuff going on there, so I'm good with that. I also have to figure out what I'm doing with the license plate on this. I don't think I'm going to use the actual license plate. I got to think of something else. I may just pick another 33 license plate, or come up with some numbers that mean something. I like to spray 50 to 60 psi with solvents, 1-to-1 overreduce. What's your sweet psi for water? I'm old school, so when I started with all the water-based stuff, it needed a really high pressure because it just didn't want to spray very well. So I'll often run anywhere between 20 to 40 pounds with even all these real thin paints. I just like the control. Again, that's a guide. You don't have to. Not you personally, Travis, but people who are listening or taking notes. You can run these over reduced paints all the way down to like what solvents would be. So, but yeah, 1-to-1 as far as the white and the black is where I usually start for all these small brushes. But if I'm spraying, out of a bigger brush like a BCS or 0.5 or even 0.3, it could be a lot less reduction. I like that the paint is on the thick side. I would rather reduce it than have a paint that's ready to spray, because if it's ready to spray for me, I can't use it for anything other than the detail stuff. You know what I mean? I can't spray it out of a bigger brush. I can't have instant coverage because it's always thin, So, all right, that's good with that. Let me figure out what we're doing next here. We may end up busting into that. I'm going to back you guys up a little bit so we can see what's going on here. There we go. All right, so I've got all the little bits and pieces of blue in. So that's actually really big. That's a big help doing all that, because now I can just kind of keep working on it. I should add a little bit of blue down on the bottom of this tire here, but I'll do that later. It's not a big deal. La 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 la. What do I want to do? So many things to do. I'm not going to do the spokes yet. I can't wait to do the spokes on these two wheels. They just, for me, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of figuring out. Like a gray there. That's okay. I could jump back and finish this up now. I found bumping the pressure up from where I had it was a game changer for me. I'm usually between 40 and 50 with Wicked Illustration. Yeah, Simon, that's it. And even though it's thinner, well, I'll clean up brushes while I'm talking. Even though it's thinner and you have that higher pressure, it's still, all right, so you need a brush that has a lot of control. Whether it's, and it doesn't, I'm not talking about, like super high-end detail brushes. I'm talking about a well-made airbrush. You just need, if you're going to run at that higher pressure, you need something that's mechanically able to give you control over that paint. So obviously, Simon, you have stuff like that, but if you're getting into it and you're looking to run at a higher pressure like that and you want that kind of detail and you're having trouble getting there, look at your brush. I saw another post today. It's like, I bought this $10 airbrush and it's not working for me, and What am I doing wrong? And it's 90% of the time, it's not the person using the brush, even though they're brand new at it. Some of those cheap brushes are really cheap, so they suck. So yeah, so having a brush that's well made and has a lot of control will let you use a super high pressure and have a ton of control over it. That's kind of what's going on. Again, and I get it. We live in the dollar store mentality now, unfortunately, where we want it cheap and we want it now. But man, and I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear the next thing is, man, I use those brushes all the time and look at all the stuff I do. And I get it. It's like, I could build a house with garbage tools too, but you end up throwing them away and replacing them 10 times during the project. You can do it, but it's just not right. My Eclipse seems to really go to work at higher pressure. Even my Micron is sweet around 35. Yeah, Simon, that's exactly it. The Eclipses, those self-centering nozzles, those cone-shaped nozzles, that's what they're designed to do. They're designed for high pressure. That's why T-shirt artists use the BCS all the time. And the Pache VL and the Crescendo, they all use that self-centering pressure fit nozzle because it can handle a really super high pressure. But yeah, the Micron, I run it high too, but there's a threshold there. Like you would never run a Micron at like T-shirt level, like 60 to 70. It just isn't made for that. The air passages just aren't made for it. So it doesn't perform any better. But yeah, I agree with you. Anywhere between 20 to 40 pounds, even for the Micron, for me works really, really well. It's interesting though how different the airflow is between like an airbrush like the Micron or the Sotar or the Infinity, the really small nozzled Infinity. Those have such smaller air channels that even at super high pressure doesn't feel like high pressure through those. It's really neat that way. All right. What am I doing? All right. I should get some red and just knock out that little reflection in there. Yeah, why not? Might as well do it right? I do have some red on my palette. That's going to be good. All right. So now so in an instance like this, I got to do the red reflection on the two parts of this pipe here. I don't want to put a bunch of paint in here, right? Because I'm just going to end up throwing it out because I don't need it really anywhere else. The hair on there. So what I'm going to do is I have red on my palette for the paintbrush right now. So again, I'm going to jump to the, what am I going to use? I use 1 to 5. So this is a little bit thicker mix. It's still super thin, don't get me wrong. It's 1 part 40, 50, and 5 parts reducer, so it's still way over reduced for what they recommend. But I'm going to put a few drops of this in here. Just down to the bottom of the cup, like that. And then I'm going to grab the paintbrush again. And hopefully I have enough of it on the palette. I got some red on the palette here. I think I do have enough. So I have some red on the palette. So I just kind of picked it up. And now I can grab and just mix it into this. So even though that is a super tiny bit of paint, it's going to give me more than I need. And again, not that I use a ton of paint, but it's nice to conserve it a little bit too, if you can. And again, a drop of paint isn't that expensive, but what can I say? How much pressure do you think they got when they blew paint through a straw? William, I don't think those mouth atomizers use a lot of pressure at all. It's just whatever. I think whatever your that air pressure is from normal breathing. I guess someone who does any kind of respiratory therapy probably knows that exact number, like what the average air pressure is. But it's not that much. It's almost like a siphoning thing. Yeah, there you go, Simon. All right, so this is straight, and again, this red is the red I'm using is the opaque Pyro red from Createx. So I'm going to try it out on the firewall here just to make sure it's spraying because it's so faint. If something's wrong with it, it's not going to really show up, but I can still tell if it's going to be a problem, and this is not a problem. So now I can go right in to this, the two areas where that red's reflecting, and I can just kind of build it up. Again, this is super reduced, so it's going to take a bunch of passes to get that to kind of light up, but I don't care. You know, it's like, it's easy. I didn't use a whole ton of paint. I have a ton of control over it. The atomization, when you do it this way, when you really over reduce it and add that 40/50 to it, the atomization through like a micron is imperceptible. You can't see the dot pattern. It breaks it down that fine. So that's absolutely huge, especially, you know, obviously when I'm doing teeny weeny micro stuff, you know, you don't want to see like, I don't want to see like this pattern, you know. I want those fades to be like invisible on that scale. All right. So now since I have it in the brush, this isn't a real strong red obviously, but if I can poke this in a couple other places and save myself some time, like on the reflection on the headlight, I can't really see where it is, but it doesn't overly matter because again, I'm just loosely blocking that in. There's just a little bit of pink on the bottom of that headlight ring, so I'm just going to throw it in. Same thing with the front of this headlight. There's already some overspray on it from the fender, but there's definitely some pink there too. This whole bottom fender I missed, so I'm going to have to deal with that at some point, but not right now. So there's also some damage here. I am going to zoom you guys in again. They just got scratched from carrying it around. I took this one with me on the trip, so I was careful to I'll show it to you in a second, but I sprayed the edges with UVLS satin to keep it safe, and it really worked well. I only have one little ding in the corner, which isn't bad, but I didn't do the center part of it, and you can see those little scratches there. So this red here will be nice to kind of take the curse off that, so I can just kind of go in where that scratch covers or comes across like the darkest areas, and I can just kind of like go back and forth over it, and like I said, just take the curse off it. It seems to be there we go. Didn't seem to be catching up there. It almost seemed to be spraying white again, which shouldn't do that because all that blue is gone, but who knows. So by just going over this, I just kind of take the curse off it. Here's another cool thing too, because this is black down here, so this spider webbed all over here. So this red I can actually use this red to kind of start to cancel out that spider webbing as well. Again, because what you're seeing behind it is the cowl. If I can just clean it up with black and it's done. But if I use the red, since I got it in the brush, when I go to really clean that up with the black, I'll have this base of red that will kind of continue the look of that cowl or the firewall on the back. If I just spray with black, I mean, it's not a major deal, but you might see that deep black against the red. So this way it guarantees that does not happen. And even in here where this little bit that's behind here is red as well, that I didn't originally do, I can throw that in now. Yeah, it's still good. Good. And since I have it, just going to double check to make sure that, like this, obviously the whole radiator cowl is red, but I can't, here's what I mean. If I use this here to start blocking this in, it's going to take absolutely forever to get that up to saturation. It's just going to take forever, and that's not what I want. But what it is good for, like here, where I based in this blue, this violet after, because what happened was originally I did this whole area, left that area, and then either forgot or put a little bit of blue in there. It wasn't enough, so I had to go back in with the violet, but obviously it's all kind of messy right now. But I can go back in with this color, and the same thing. I can start to just remove all that overspray that was kind of thrown in by accident as I was kind of working on it roughly. This whole highlight here is very violet. I'm going to have to go over the whole thing with a violet anyway. But this is just nice to be able to use this really controlled thin color to kind of clean this up. And again, remove any overspray from that white or that, that color that I put in, the violet that I used for it. If I added a touch of black to this, I could, well, maybe I will. I could continue on with some of the details on the side, so maybe I will do that, since again I have this color in here and it's working well and all that. But for now, let me just clean up the overspray on this. Again, kids, it's all about, for me, it's all about patience. I mean, I want to just blast it and get it done, just kind of knock it in. But it's just so much more control when you, like, it takes me like, what, 25 passes, to get that cleaned up, or to start to get it cleaned up. But there's just so much control, it's like, yeah, I have to wait for it, but it's going in exactly where I want it to, and it's spraying really smoothly, like I said, imperceptibly, small bits of paint. So again, it's the trade-off, You have to take your time, but it's worth it. All right. So let's do a little bit of there we go. Do a little bit more work on whatever this reflection is over here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check to see if I need any red, which I think I do. I need red in whatever this hubcap is. The other thing that this is, it's a little bit too much. The other thing is this, the white wall here is very white, so I may want to add a little bit to that too. And overall, this area down here on the asphalt is needs a little bit more red as well. So again, this color will work really well for that. Just kind of like really lightly going over this, and I don't know if you guys can pick it up, but I've talked about this before. So when I'm spraying like a color like this, it's super transparent over the same color. It's impossible to see it going on. You don't see the change in color until it builds up enough. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at the wetness of the paint on the surface, and that's how I'm painting with it. And it's a lot like when people paint cars, clearing cars. You can't see the clear, it has no color. So they're looking at the application, that wet application, and that's how they know where they're going and how much is going on. And it's the same kind of thing here. I'm looking at this from an angle, so as I see it start to like wet that surface, then I move on. And that way I know I get complete coverage and it's not going to spider web, or it's not going to flow and just flood out all over everything. There we go. Dan, what's up? Nick, what's happening? That's okay, Nick. That's all right. We're here. We'll be here every Thursday now. All right, so before I lose a lot of that black or the red, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of black in that. And the same thing, if I just put a drop of black in, it's going to blow up that color because it's so thin. So I'm just going to take the tiniest bit of black off of the palette, right on the end of the brush there. And I'm just going to mix this in. And if you watch, it's going to turn like a dusty rose color almost automatically. So I'm going to add a little bit more black to that. Same thing, I'd rather sneak up on it, rather add a little bit and then add a little bit more. And if I go too dark, then there's nothing I can do. I mean, I have to dump it out and start over again, but. The wet line, that's it. Yeah, Travis, that's exactly it. So Travis knows because, does all the custom painting and everything. But if you just go, if you're not familiar with the way a car is painted, just look up any, clear coating a car, and, make sure it's not I do this in my garage type of thing. You want someone who knows what they're doing in a spray booth because they have great lighting and you'll see it. It's like it's the wet edge. They spray it over itself and they're always looking at that wet edge, and it'll give you a really good idea of dealing with the airbrush as well. Absolutely, Nick. Absolutely, play it after. That's awesome, man. I gotta change I like the Thursday live title screen, but it's exactly the same for every video, and I did that on purpose so that you can pick them out, but it also doesn't let you tell what they really are. So I think I might go to like I do on the Facebook where it's a different picture all the time. So I'll have to figure that out too. All right, this might not be dark enough, but we're going to give it a shot. So again, there's that dusty rose color, and I know it's out of focus. Can I focus that? What the heck? There you go. So without the bubbles, it's kind of a dusty rose color. Let's get back to this. But again, I added just the tiniest amount of paint, like fraction of a milligram of paint. So this is still, it still has the same amount of control, but now it's just darker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, how close can I get you? Let's play that game. That's about as close as I can get you. No, that's not about as close as I can get you. Hold on. Oh, no, that is as close as I can get you. Sorry. Oh, man. I was going to try to move the camera closer, and it is as close as it's going to get from here. All right. So now it's the same deal here. Like I'm going to start cutting in like the shade under the wheel here and the side of this car. I can't see the paint going on, but I can see the little drop, the little circle where the wet paint is going on, and that's what I'm painting with. And I'm just going back and forth over that bottom edge and darkening it up. Now I am keeping an eye on it, obviously, you know, as it's, because as I'm adding paint, that's getting darker and darker. So I am keeping an eye on it, but it's difficult to see that going down other than that wet, you know, the area of wet paint. Obviously, the nice thing about the airbrush too, when you're doing that, you can see that circle of wet paint. So if you need to tighten it up and get closer, you can see how big that circle is of the wet paint as well. I think this is, I don't know what this is. Some sort of chrome bit on the side of this car too. This will get to a point on the side of this car where I'll use just straight black. And if I get a chance before we stop today, I'll show you. Because right now, as I build this up to saturation, don't forget, is a dusty rose color. It's like a grayish, like a, I don't know, it's more gray than black. So I'm going to have to add that richness back to the reflections, the black. So I just go in at the very end with a little tiny bit of black and go over it in the areas it needs it, and it's ready to go. So this whole conservation of paint thing is both fun and it's also keeps me from losing my mind. So if so as I was doing that, those little red, you know, in the motor, I was doing those little red reflections, and I switched this to this dark color. Now I'm working on this part. By doing that, I get to bounce around a little bit bounce around a little bit on the painting, and I'm not doing the same thing all over the place. And that really helps because again, it's easy for me to just get like, all right, I don't want to work on this anymore, that kind of thing. So by being able to bounce around, it keeps me more into it, and I like that. Nick, I've had some very clean, clear jobs done in my garage, all about knowing your surroundings. Nick, that's it, but you are probably very good at what you do. I have also seen the most horrendous jobs. So yeah. I try to err on the side of, you know, lack of skill first, and then you know, as people, you know, get into it or tell me what they're doing or describe it, usually tell pretty well. Yes, painting in a garage can be fun for all the reasons, and obviously, Nick, I don't have to tell you. You know, I mean, if you're painting solvents, not you personally, but you know, when you paint solvents or throw all that in the air, not only is it flammable, but it's also, most of the hardeners will cause cancer. So, yeah, it can be fun. All right, this this dusty rose will work out really well in this area too. It's actually going to kind of mellow out that red a little bit, so I'm going to throw some of that on there too. Yeah, a good example of a good paint job that was just done in a garage. If you're following Doug Dorr, he's got a buddy that based, painted, and I believe cleared his dad's car in his garage, and it came out awesome. So dry air, wet the floor, wipe, and tack rag. There you go. There you go. Yes, not everyone has a downdraft spray booth in their house. So, I mean, it would be nice, but all right, so over the whole thing with the same color, just kind of, and what I'm doing is I'm just bouncing back and forth between this and the reference photo, which I just showed you, which is there. So see how bright that the highlight is on the tire? I got to deal with that at some point, but not quite there yet. So I'm over here in the edge too. So see, that's that little bit of damage right there in the corner from carrying this thing around. The UVLS protected this whole edge. Normally this edge is getting banged up all the time, but that UVLS has done a good job of keeping it safe. Jason Jones, there you go. Yep. I loved it though. So perfect example of, you know, the price you pay for spraying in your garage. The video of him showing the car for the first time or getting ready to show the car, and there's I think the primer overspray all over the outside of his garage doors was awesome. Oh, see, there you go. See, again, Nick. Things you have to keep in mind that, you know, make all the difference. Yeah. All right. So that is good right there. I think I'm going to add a little bit of black to this. Do I want to add a little bit of black to this? Actually, no, I don't think I do. I'm going to wait on that plan right there. I was going to add that black to it, but I think it's pretty dark as it is. I think it's good enough. This bottom, the bottom sill here needs to be darker too. Which I could probably do now. Yeah, let me throw some black in there because I can use black on other stuff here. Let me use that 10-to-1 again. A wet hose. Yeah, no one likes a wet hose, Nick. All right, 10-to-1 here. I know. Come on, someone do it for me, please. That's what she said. All right, 10-to-1. Well, I should do it the right way. It's actually 1-to-10. So it's 1 part paint to 10 parts, 40-11. All right, so with this 10-to-1, now I can just kind of go in on this bottom sill right here. Same thing. Actually, I want to make sure I got that red out of there. There we go. And just kind of same thing. Go back and forth and watch that, watch that wet application of that paint, and just kind of hit it till it dumps down to the right value. If you got a downdraft, I wouldn't wet, but man, the wet floors consistently give me better jobs. Yeah, well, it locks all that dust down on the ground. But again, that's interesting. I never thought about the humidity. Like if you're working in a really warm place, or you have a garage you can get up to like 80, 85, and you wet the floor, you're gonna have a lot more humidity, which I suppose you could adjust for in the reducers and the paints and stuff. But yeah, it's interesting. It's quite the science. And then the same thing. I mean, you look at then someone who has a controlled spray booth, they control humidity and temperature and everything, and it does make life a whole lot easier. But a good spray booth, I mean, a real downdraft spray booth built in is what, $100,000, for car size type of thing. I know you can get the inflatables, and they have small ones you can like build yourself kind of thing, which is really cool. What I'm trying to figure out is making a small, something like a downdraft, but something small for like really small parts. So the thing about a downdraft is that so downdraft, what it is the floor, actually, for those who don't know, the floor has a grate in it, and an exhaust, essentially. The air comes in from the top through another grate, and then goes down through this grated floor. So you have the air going consistently from the top down to the floor and then out of the spray booth. So it would be nice to have something like that in a small version, but the problem with that is you have to be in the booth. It has to be closed. It has to be a closed system essentially. So you can't have like a downdraft spray booth like a modeler's downdraft spray booth. It wouldn't really be the same thing because it would be drawing the air in from the opening as well. So started with PVC pipe, frame plastic, just that Steve furnace filters and sealed up. Yeah, so Shine, I have a small, like we were just talking about, I have a small, you know, like a 3 foot little, it almost looks like a sandblasting booth that I use for like all the water-based clears and stuff like that. But, you know, man, I don't know. It would be nice to have something closet-sized that I could do some of the other things, but, and who knows, maybe that would be it. Actually build a closet-sized downdraft booth. That would be pretty cool. So the floor is graded, and but it's only 3x3 because that's all I need. So that I'm in the process of figuring out what the next art cave is going to look like, and it, unfortunately, even though I've been in art caves a lot as I've been, you know, kind of going through this career, the next art studio is going to be above ground, which will be nice. The last one was too. I shouldn't say that. The last one was above ground too, but as I'm kind of coming to, you know, kind of figuring out what this next studio is going to be, it also is going to include a workshop for all the woodworking stuff that I've been doing. So to incorporate some sort of really cool solvent type spray booth would be most exciting. So we'll see. I'll figure it out. Fortunately, I'm not doing cars and I'm not doing bikes, so I never need, you know, a lot of room. It's all for these small panels or, you know, bits and pieces. But that'll be on the docket of things to kind of figure out for sure. Again, this is just black now, so I'm just, again, it's the same deal. So I finished what I was doing with the black. Now I'm just kind of picking at stuff. I'm surprised. So that small spray booth I was talking about, the little 2 foot one, my friend Mike built that for me, and because it's nice to have, especially with, you know, with the clears, even the non-aliphatic clears, the Createx clears. It's just nice not to have that stuff floating all around your studio, because once it gets everywhere, it's everywhere. So it's kind of a pain in the butt. So having a small spray booth like this, the spray hood, just really, really helped out a lot. Because I'm lazy sometimes. So I'm like, I'll just put some UVLS on this right here. And then all of a sudden, every component in the studio is covered with this dust, which sucks. So that little spray hood. And what's nice is it has a self-contained filter on it. So I just change the filter out when it starts to get, you know, wonky, and that's it. Lugo, what's up? Thanks so much, man. It's awesome. Designing a new studio is a fun time. I love how we can all nerd out about these things. Yeah, Simon, it will get to the point with that new studio that I will make a actual model of it. So I'll have the, you know, I'll get the foam and everything, and I'll make a thing. So yeah, it should be. Well, unless you know, we end up relocating or whatever. If wherever the studio is built, it will be the studio. You know, the studio that I've always wanted. You know, I've had some nice places. I really have. But there's always been some compromises. Like the last place was fun, but really it was an art studio with no windows. You know, and that was no fun. But it was in a good spot. You know, it was in Boston, so. And you know, I was using all that regular, you know, artificial lighting anyway, so it was fine. But it'd be nice to have that studio that, you know, that I just that I've never really had. So that's the goal. Oh, that's awesome, Simon. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We have a ways to go before we figure out, where we're actually gonna kind of land, whether it's stay in Ohio or move east or even move west too. Marge's family's from Wisconsin, so that's always on the table too. So we have a lot of things to kind of think about. Sorry, I'm off the page here. But wherever it happens, the next place or this place will have the super studio for sure. All right, so the bottom of this the inset for the spare tire, I thought was red, but it isn't. It's kind of a grayish color. I've got a little bit of red on there already, so I'm gonna kind of dump this down a little bit with the black till I try to figure out what I'm doing with this. Where else can I go with this? I should probably work more on the motor. Yeah, so the motor, it's all in shadow. Actually, this part here should have got some of that blue, that little rectangle right up there. That should have got the blue too. So I'm not gonna be able to do much with that right now. But I can kind of work in around the spark plugs and things like that until this black gives out on me. This is going to get some paintbrush stuff too. It's just going to be a matter of, like I said, just blocking it in enough that I get a lot of this kind of tucked in, and then I can mess around with the paintbrush too. So again, let me show you what this is. This is 1 to 10. So it's 1 part opaque black to 10 parts 4011 reducer. I'll just switch out to this manila folder here. Make sure I get in the right spot. So this stuff will spray even with this brush banged up, meaning I think the tip of the nozzle or tip of the needle is bent. Even with this set up like this, kind of spraying out the side, you could still get like crazy detail. And the same thing with the fades. Like the fades are almost imperceptible. And that isn't even the most reduction that I use. So the Micron has I usually use the 1 to 20 mix. The 1 to 20 mix with the Micron C tends to be too thin. It tends to flood out a lot. It gets away from you a little bit. And again, for me, that's what slows this down. If it's a little bit thicker, it doesn't like immediately want to blast out. Now, if I use this 1 to 10 mix and say like the HPCS, it's going to blow out. It's going to give me a lot of spidering, and it's just not cool. So what I find is I'm reducing for the brush more than for the performance. So if that makes sense. And that's why I mixed up the 4011 and the 4050 in the reductions in the bottles by themselves, because that way, depending on what brush I'm using, I can just automatically bounce back and forth without having to, worry about, okay, what's going to happen with this brush? Does this need a thinner paint, or does it need a thicker paint, or whatever? So that's what I got that. London Pen, what's happening? London Pen. I have your pen. I just need to clear it. So I have a couple things that are getting cleared with House of Color Clear, and your pen is one of them. So I'm gonna get that back to you. Sorry, it's all blurry. I was distracted talking to LPC. All right, let me focus this up for you. Maybe I'll back it up a little bit. See the whole thing. There we go. So it's getting there. So now from back farther, you can kind of start to get a feel for that motor. You know, like I said, and that's what it is. It's all like just block it in and then tighten it after instead of, and I know it's not the only way to work. I could sit there and, you know, do all the details bit by bit on this until the whole thing is done. Just kind of work across it that way. But for me, I really like that loose painterly way of just kind of like loosely blocking it in and then tightening it up. And again, it gives me time to make decisions on it too, as well. So again, you know, there are a million different ways to do this. You know, hopefully you get something out of the way I do it, and then you could just kind of adopt it into the way you do it. So that's what we got. All right, let me switch over because I got to do a few more things. Move this out of the way. There we go. All right, so that's what we got. So I'm back on right now. I'm actually looking at my computer right now. I think the new episode of the Harley painting is done rendering, so I just got to get it uploaded to YouTube, and then you can see part 7 of the Harley painting, which I didn't show you because it's on the other side right now. But I'm working on that too. The Harley painting is nice. It's a lot of the same kind of thing that I'm doing with this painting, as far as, like, you know, it's got a lot of nitpicky detail, but it's totally different in that it's more textural. It's all rust and different layers of worn metal and things like that. So it's a complete opposite from this shiny Ford that's here. So it'll be a nice, you know, different kind of contrasting painting to this one. And these are the 2 last HD stencil paintings that I have in this series. So it'll be fun. And that's what I got going on there. All right. So thank you for dropping by and hanging out with us on this fine Thursday. I will be back on Monday as usual on Facebook. And I think that's it. I can't think straight. Anyway, thank you all for dropping by. It was great. Thank you for liking and subscribing, and thank you for sharing with people who may get something out of it or may enjoy it. I really do appreciate it. And all you guys are the best for jumping on and hanging out with me and keeping me company. So have a wonderful weekend. And yes, I will. I can find the button. There we go. I will catch you guys on the next one. Oh, no, wait. I don't want to leave you with that. Yeah, I will. Okay, I'm going to leave you with the reference photo instead of the Thursday live thing. I'll see you next time.